You already know what it is. And in this edition of Agency Unfiltered, we have Pete Nichols, Director of Hubdo. Hubdo is a Platinum HubSpot partner that runs the Silver Peak Challenge, in which Pete and the Hubdo team work with agencies globally to help them scale and grow. In the Silver Peak Challenge, Pete helps agencies build marketing campaigns, develop a pipeline of opportunities, and then nail their processes for delivery. And if that sounds of interest, Pete joins us to consolidate the big takeaways from the most recent Silver Peak Challenge. Pete shares what he sees as the most common roadblocks for agencies looking to grow and provides tactics to help them overcome those roadblocks. Whether you're looking to improve your ability to market, sell, deliver, or grow, this discussion with Pete provides some helpful, enlightening tips. Let's do it. Pete, welcome.
Thank you.
Hello there. I know you work with a ton of agencies, help them nail their processes, help them scale and grow. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about, from your experience, what seems to be the biggest roadblock or the most frictional part of their attempts to grow, if that makes sense?
Well, we've discovered this by seeing a lot of agencies come up against different challenges. I'd say number one is overcoming a syndrome which has a name called cobbler's children.
Yeah.
So ages old term, the cobbler's children are the last ones shod. And basically saying, well, if you're a marketer, it's probably your own marketing that gets the least amount of attention. And that's really important because we've also found that has had the biggest impact on growth, is to get your own marketing right. You got to do a ton of other things perfectly to overcome your own marketing not being up to scratch.
I would say, it's not just client acquisition, but starting a new business or finding net new leads, prospects to try and acquire new clients. Mm-hmm. But if you're able to successfully bring on a new client, God forbid you lose them, who are you going to backfill that business with, right? And there's some risks associated with having no marketing plan. Yeah,
absolutely. It's like a blood supply. If you there's a whole lot of situations that you can't solve easily if your marketing's not working. So we run a program where the analogy is like a mountain climb. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we use Everest as the analogy because it's stages. You running an agency, you've got stages of selling and delivering and all of that. So we use that, and the difficulty you find along the way we call falling into a crevasse. If you fall into a crevasse with clients, you might be in there with either good fit clients where it's a difficulty around the relationship, or you're in the crevasse with bad fit clients, and how you get out of that is marketing. You got to have good fit clients coming in, because there's no way you're ever going to fix being in there with bad fit clients.
Yeah. Marketing for my agency. Okay, I understand it's important. How would I get started? Where would you make your priorities, or where should I start my focus if I'm starting from net zero marketing my agency?
Yeah, so agencies, and certainly the ones we help, generally fall into either an existing successful business that is becoming an inbound agency. Typical examples would be content marketing company, content writers, video production. There's a range of businesses where the clients want to see the ROI, and so becoming more of a full service agency is a way to show how the content turns into dollars. So that's one journey. The other journey is, hey, I'm starting an agency. I've maybe come out of a corporate background. Where do I begin? So those two journeys, although they sound really different, they're a little similar in, well, what does creating an inbound agency look like? So the roadmap of where you even begin is tricky. And the part that tends to get skipped over, as we've found, is the initial focus. Deciding, what am I going to focus on? HubSpot would generally talk about an industry alignment. Say, are you going to focus on medical, or what's it associated with? It's not always about industry. It can be that our focus may be geographical. We're going to focus on small, medium businesses in the Detroit area. So that's the part that, in terms of getting started, is to focus. And if you don't know what you're going to focus on first, at least decide what you're not going to do. Because until you reach the point of saying, you know what, although there's a customer who would like to do business with us, we're going to say no. That's a really brave thing to say as an agency. But until you say no, you have no focus.
Well, I would say a lot of agencies would say, like, I don't have the luxury of saying no, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like if they're open to working with me, I have to say yes. But it sounds like if you do just say yes, you end up in that crevasse, right?
Yeah, and most of the folks that we've seen fall into the crevasse is that they just haven't said no.
Yeah.
You've got to. It's part of the formula for success.
So if I'm stuck in there, let's say I have a bad fit client, how do I guess keeping the mountain analogy, how do I like climb myself out of there?
Yeah, so it's a nice way that this ties back to the cobbler's children.
Sure.
Because we've said that to get out of the crevasse, if you have bad fit clients, your marketing must be working for you. It has to be bringing you in leads. Mm-hmm. And so if your marketing's not working, this is this cobbler's children syndrome. I'm a marketer, but I'm not doing my own marketing. So it's like trying to climb a mountain barefoot. So getting your marketing right is like pulling on the boots with the right crampons so you can actually dig in and climb.
Yeah.
And we've seen all the agencies that have done that and made the decision to make their marketing work, they just start to climb out. Some faster than others, but it all begins to come together once the marketing starts to work.
Yeah, makes sense. And then I think just in a natural segue, if your marketing is firing and you are identifying, well, I know who is going to be a good fit for my services, and then you acquire leads that qualify and make those fits, like now it's about sales. Like, so from what your experiences are working with agencies, what do I need to keep in mind when building out a sales process?
Yeah, so the sales is a really interesting one because a lot of marketing agencies love marketing and hate selling.
Sure, yeah.
They're like, I'm not a sales guy, or I just don't like the sales process. I hate having a sales conversation. All of this, I'd rather go clean out my sock drawer than do selling. So first thing that has really helped marketing agencies overcome that is to stop thinking of it as sales. So there's a great book called To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink.
Yeah.
And that has helped a number of agencies where it's changed the mindset. In fact, one guy, Alex, is a great agency in the UK, hated selling, had a post-it note on the side of his monitor saying, helping, not selling. So to change the mindset to helping, first of all, is to focus on that rather than selling. And that way you're solving for the customer if you're helping.
Sure.
That overcomes that initial inertia, if you like, of avoiding the sales process. But then there's a couple of other factors you've got to get right. The sales process that HubSpot lays out within the training, if you don't already have a sales process, just adopt that.
Sure. Don't reinvent the wheel if there's a template, so to speak, already made available.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And understand, why does HubSpot have a connect call, an exploratory call, a planning call, demo and close? Why have that in separate meetings? Why not just do it all in one meeting?
Sure.
There's a reason for that. Agencies have learned, slow down the sales process, work out what I want from that exploratory call of finding true need. There's another great agency in Australia, Mark, who has an existing content business. And as he came onto the program working with the rest of the team, realized fairly early on he had an epiphany, which was, oh my God, I've been talking to customers about what a great job we can do for them, but they didn't have a problem to solve. And so Mark came up with the phrase, I've realized that when the customer doesn't have a problem, it's not my fault. Because he's realized how much time he has spent doing coffee, presentations, all of this on clients that just don't have a problem right now.
Sure.
They love catching up with him. And so that's saved him from wasting a terrible amount of time and cost on deals that aren't going to close. Sure. And focus on, well, where's the problem? So in selling, first you get comfortable with selling. Second is find the gap. Is there a problem there to solve?
And if not, what, you'd be okay going back to your original point, like being okay saying no to the business? Or what happens if you can identify the need? Or what if there is no gap?
Well, you can spend a lot of time with the customer thinking, well, fantastic, we'd love to get you involved in the business, but it's highly likely that that deal is just going to go dark. Yeah, they'll reach a point where it's time to spend the money, and they won't be able to justify signing it off because, as we've also found, if the client has the option to do nothing, that's what they'll do. Right. That's what they'll do. Yep. So don't waste your time. Keep the relationship going, because at some point they'll need you. Yeah. And or they'll know somebody else who needs you, and that's a far better strategy. Now, if there is a problem to solve,
Yes.
then the third challenge within sales appears, which is don't take the cheese. So
I feel like that's going to be one thing you're going to have to expand on.
Yeah. So classic situation, we're masters at our own craft, right? If an agency is sitting at the table, he's earned the right to talk to the customer about what's needed. Customer says, well, we were thinking of doing Facebook ads, and there's this thing called custom audiences, right? What's that all about? And you're like, bam.
I know everything about custom audiences.
Let me tell you, I'll get to the whiteboard. And we call that taking the cheese.
Okay.
So the customer has said, here's what I need to know. And because we have an understanding of it, we want to show that.
Yeah.
Patrick is another great agency in the US. He has a phrase for this. He says, you latch onto this, and then you start throwing out ideas like ninja stars, where I'm going to show you how much I know about Facebook and custom audiences.
Right.
Problem is, this is in the exploratory meeting, where you're trying to find out, does a customer have a problem to solve?
Yep.
And you get so excited talking about this, and then you have a great meeting. Fantastic. Yeah, can you send us a proposal on that? Yeah, sure. I'll send Facebook ads. You walk away and you didn't discover the gap. You don't know whether you're working on a deal that's real. You don't know if they have the option to do nothing.
You move backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So that third problem that you want to solve is selling value. If you just talk about running Facebook ads, you want to find out what's the size of the gap. If that's, say, a $2 million hole in the business that they need to close, and you can help them close it, then you know what the gap is, and now you can anchor to that $2 million of value that you're going to create.
Right.
It may be Facebook ads, it may be a whole ton of things, and that's really the sales process in three main stages. Get comfortable with selling.
Yep.
Finding the gap in the business that they definitely want to solve, and then anchor to that to sell the value of how you would close that gap. Then you have a deal that's worth investing in.
Right. So you're definitely not leading with tactics, right? You're taking the cheese, you're going to throw your tactics down like ninja stars, find the gap, the value that you can drive, and then you're kind of framing your tactics and what your solution can provide around that.
Yeah, absolutely, perfect. Because the Facebook on its own is a tactic.
Yeah.
You may run it for 6 months, and you're thinking, well, this is great. Customer says, I don't think it's so great. Why not? You never established what the goals were in the first place. It's really frustrating to look back and think, what an idiot. I didn't define what success looked like. I went after the tactics, and now I've lost that retainer. I've got to go find another one.
So Pete, obviously you've talked about kind of these cohorts or these agencies you work with. They make the mountain climb. What if I'm interested in learning more? Like, where do I go? How do I learn more about that?
Yeah, so
because it sounds like you're helping solve marketing needs, sales needs.
Yes, the mountain climb. So talking to great sales trainers within HubSpot. So Dan Tyre, Dave Winehouse, the boot camps that they run over 6 weeks, 8 weeks. What we've done here for smaller agencies is identified the need to have something that's longer range to solve multiple challenges, not just the sales and the marketing, but also the delivery and how to grow an agency and how to hire staff. That's a bigger journey. So it is like a mountain climb, and we figured, well, a goal to aim for, it might be nice to shoot for the first tier of the HubSpot Partner Program, which is Silver.
Yep.
So the name of the program became Silver Peak. So on Hubdo's website, we talk about the Silver Peak Challenge, and that is a 9-month program of that climb, broken up into 5 stages, and we tackle each one of those areas in turn.
That's great. And so obviously you're working with, because you name dropped a few examples, I think there was one in Detroit maybe, or there was one in Australia, so obviously you have a pretty interesting global perspective.
Yeah.
Do you find that agencies globally have different issues or run into different roadblocks? Or I guess, what are the differences in scaling an agency across the globe? What are the most stark differences?
Yeah, so between Asia Pacific, so Australia, New Zealand, through Asia, into India, then into Europe and UK, there's some slight differences there, then into North America from the US to Canada. It's all the same.
Really?
It's all the same. It's the challenges that you face as an agency. There are many. You could think of it as an analogy of raising children. You say, what are the challenges in raising kids? There's tons of them, but some days are fantastic with no challenges. Sometimes they're terrible, and they all vary. So the nature of the challenges vary, but it's not really any different between Asia and North America. It's challenges in sales, or challenges in marketing, or challenges in delivery. Balancing your resourcing as you grow. In the mountain climb, we use Everest. Mount Everest is a really nice example because you climb it in 5 stages. And so we've broken the climb up into those 5. But
Like milestones, so to speak.
Yeah, like you get to camp, and we arrive at camp. We spend 4 weeks there doing more academy certifications.
Sure.
They hate me because I make them do all these exams and all the homework.
Yes, that's great.
Stuff you got to do.
Yeah.
But as we get to the 4th camp, so they're ready for stage 5 to push to the summit. If you look up information at Everest online, you see this little dotted line through camp 4. That's called the death zone.
The death zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you go above that point of Everest,
Yeah.
You need oxygen or you die.
Oh, okay.
So what's common for agencies, like you could start an agency and have a great sales process and close a whole lot of deals and maybe go HubSpot silver gold really fast. But if you haven't built the sustenance, you could find yourself on Everest with no oxygen, and then you just as quickly you're back down again.
Yep.
So as agencies grow, each one of those areas that we've tackled, the selling, the marketing, the delivery, hiring staff, you've got to do each one in unison to edge your way up. If you do any one of them too much and neglect the others, you find that you fall back again.
Sure, which makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you put all this effort, time, work, bandwidth into marketing and you're a phenomenal marketer for your agency, no sales process, you're not helpful and consultative in your sales process, where are all those leads going to go?
Yeah. Yep. So just live through that journey where you're tackling each challenge in turn, little by little, knowing that as you get to the death zone, you've got enough sustenance that you're not in fear of, if I lose one client, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills, kind of thing. So you can avoid that by just take the time to learn and climb at a rate you can sustain.
Final question for you.
Yep.
Didn't prep you on it. I usually ask to close out each one, what is the strangest or what's the weirdest thing about agency life? Now, what's the weirdest thing for you working with agencies, right? So usually it's agencies talking about the agency life themselves. What do you find the most unique or most interesting or weirdest aspect to working with other agencies up the mountain climb?
You know what's really inspiring actually about working with agencies? We thought we were going to fail working with agencies to start with because it was quite difficult to get some commonality of vision amongst those agencies. And that was the early days where we were supporting everything from HubSpot to Infusionsoft to this to all manner of software with no common methodology. So 3 years ago, decided on HubSpot with the Academy as the joint answer and to go inbound. So inbound is a very honest way of running a business. You're very open to attract people to you based on who you are and what you do.
Sure.
What I found is that it just attracts great people. So the agencies that we work with very quickly become rich friendships. So that's kind of the curveball. We always wanted to help agencies. But
you didn't expect the type of relationships that have come about maybe? Or
the richness of that openness, and because everybody is inbound by nature. So as far as a community, if you want to be in a community of great people, hang out with inbound agencies because they just want to do what's right.
Sure.
So that's kind of my curveball, and I feel a privilege to be a part of it.
That's great. Well, Pete, thank you so much for joining us.
Great.
Good luck with
Kevin.
the next mountain climb. And this has been Agency Unfiltered. We'll catch you guys next time. If you like what you watched, make sure to subscribe to our Agency Unfiltered newsletter, which will remind you when the next episode drops, as well as send you a ton of other helpful, strategically curated agency content. You could also subscribe to our channel on YouTube or podcast on SoundCloud. And if you want to keep the conversation going, tweet me at Kevin_Dunn. Remember, keep it unfiltered, stay weird. I'm Kevin Dunn, and I'll see you next time.